Jesus died for you. That's something that I've heard said many times to people, and I don't really know if we always understand what we're saying, or if the person hearing that really receives it as the person saying it believes they should. Jesus died for you. That's quite a phrase to take on whenever someone is unfamiliar with the story of Jesus and what that would look like and what that means. Basically, Jesus dying for you is not simply a phrase, but it's part of a story. And a story that began a long time ago with one man committing a sin which led up to all of mankind being in this fall and separation from God. And Jesus stepped in, and when we talk about him dying, this is not a person that is shoving you out of the way of a car. He took on the sins that we have committed and that we have not yet committed, and he took those upon himself as he was the Son of God. And he died, but it was a gruesome death, and he was killed, and he was a free man. And the Bible says that he was God presented Christ as a sacrifice, and as a sacrifice we know that that is where it takes the place of something else, and God presented Christ as a sacrifice for us. And when we say that Jesus died for you, it means so much more than he just died, because there was something more than that. And right before he said in Romans, right before that happened, Paul explains that all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. One of those verses that we like to point out and use when we're evangelizing. But it's the next verse that he said that Christ was made a sacrifice. God presented Christ as a sacrifice. Now, as we think about that, as we know that all have sinned and came short of the glory of God, this is saying so much more than Jesus just died for you. He died so that you may live. I've heard many people say it like that. He died a gruesome death, and he was a free man, as we said, and an innocent man, rather, and he took it upon himself, the weight of the world's sin, and died on a cross. And this was a gruesome and bloody death that had been told about for years by many different prophets. And the phrase "Jesus died for you" is not a pretty phrase. This is an ugly story, and this was an ugly scene. This is not a beautiful death. This is ugly, and this is something that is very gruesome and cruel, and just not something pretty, and not something that any ordinary person would think is a good thing, that some man died on the cross in this gruesome way. But to say Jesus died for you is to say that he didn't just die, he also rose again. And that is where the power comes from, and the power of the resurrection. And I think when of course after Paul was writing this, he knew that Christ had came and died and risen again, because he had seen Christ. And I think it is important that we know that as we say that Jesus died for you, we also can come in with an echo right after that and say that Jesus also raised to life again. And the whole story, the gospel, is summed up right there. And so when we can tell people that Jesus died for you, and Jesus died for each and every one of you, it's so much more than just saying a man, was killed for you. And the best way to put it is that he died so that we could live. And I think that is something that we should keep in mind, and something that when we are explaining how Jesus died for one another, for us and for others, we must always remember that his death brings us life,